Welcome back, Bears fans, to this Thursday edition of the CHGO Bears Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. What is going on, everybody? As I mentioned, it's Thursday, also known as the CHGO Audible Day, our weekly in-depth game preview, all aimed to make you the most informed Bears fan on game day. I'm your host, Will DeWitt. Joined with me is my co-host, Nicholas Moreano. And Nick, man, I'm just still reeling in the fact that you and I were able to witness some history on Sunday. I've been telling all my friends, all my neighbors, and they're all very jealous, obviously. But I'm just excited for another week of watching Justin Fields continue just his ascension.
Yeah, well, it's been different seeing all the positive recognition that a Bears quarterback is getting, not just locally, but on a national level. So that's been something completely different that I don't think you and I have really been a part of. Jay Cutler had his spurts, Mitch Trubisky did, but not to this degree. So it's been awesome to see that, Justin Fields is getting the recognition he deserves. And yeah, we did see history in the making there last Sunday, and who knows what will happen this Sunday.
Hey now, Rex Grossman won NFC Offensive Player of the Month September during the Super Bowl year. I remember that, and I was so excited. And of course, everyone knows I still have my signed Rex Grossman jersey that I got at training camp when I was a kid. And then people found out if you blitz the man, he crumbles rather quickly. But the good news is, and we got into those stats actually last week, Justin Fields has been a very poised quarterback under pressure ever since that mini bye. It hasn't been anything that can rattle him, and I love it. And one other thing, I went back and I rewatched episode 1 of his season of QB1 on Netflix, which is no longer on Netflix. You have to do some digging to find it, but it's just kind of cool to see him as a kid in high school and talking about how he approaches just life, and he wants to be humble because people like the humble guys, and you just kind of you'd forget, sometimes he doesn't say a lot to the media, but that's just kind of who he is. And he just wants to be a humble dude. And I'm rooting for him. I'm really excited about just, like I said, the development that has been JF1.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see. Well, that's a good idea. I might want to have to just go back and watch those episodes, because I remember my good friend Ben told me, he's like, hey, Nick, watch this QB1 series and watch this Justin Fields guy. I'm like, all right, I'll go watch him, see what he's about. And hey, now he's the Bears quarterback and doing some really good things.
Yeah, literally the quote, I wrote it on my phone. I don't like to be a cocky guy. I feel like people like the humble guys that are good. And boy, he's a little bit more than good as of right now. But we have a lot to get to. Obviously, this is our in-depth game preview. We're going to discuss the keys to success on both sides of the ball, determine who has the edge, share our weekly X Factors, our bold predictions brought to you by Greenridge Farm, and a whole lot more. And of course, if you're here in the chat, ask some questions. Joey's in the back end, our awesome producer. He will be starting them up for the end of the show, and we'll do our Q&A that Nick and I love to do to wrap up these game preview episodes. Can't wait to see your questions later on. And one last housekeeping item is that we do have another tailgate coming up here this Sunday. So come out, hang out with us before the Bears take on the Lions here on November 13th. You have multiple beer and drink options. There's going to be some Greenridge Farm meats. If you join, Nick, what was your advice if you go to the game? No, bring Tupperware. You can take some of the meat home. Maybe at the end, if there's some extra meat sticks, you can take them. But, come hang out with us. We can enjoy some food, brews, games, and a lot more. And it's all-inclusive tailgate. Last week was really awesome, Nick. Just getting to meet a lot of people who are fans of CHGO, fans of you and me for the past 6-7 years doing a podcast together. The link to join this tailgate and get your tickets is in the description below, both here on YouTube and in your podcast player of choice. But like I said, Nick was last week was a really good time at the tailgate, and I'm excited to just kind of keep those good vibes rolling here on Sunday morning.
Absolutely. I know it's going to be a little colder, though, Will, this Sunday. So make sure you bundle up if you do go to the tailgate and end up going to the game afterwards. But it's still going to be a good time at the CHGO tailgate. Just bundle up a little bit.
There we go. Let's get into this game preview. Bears, Lions, one-liner. Hit me.
One-liner, explosive. Explosive for both teams and what we will probably see offensively, but we'll get into that.
Mine is, phew. We actually can have an opponent that I feel relatively comfortable about, and we'll talk about that as we get through this episode. So let's dive in with our offensive keys of the week. And Nick, passing it over to you, I'm going to defer this week. What's key number 1?
Key number one is what the Bears have been doing since that mini bye. It's just let Field loose and do that with his ability to run and pick up yards through the ground game. And these design runs, getting him on the edges with defensive ends, or if there's a linebacker that's spying, he has the speed to outrun a lot of these guys. And you see what happened last week against the Miami Dolphins, setting the NFL rushing record for a quarterback in a single game. So that's what needs to continue. And you look back at just even last week what the Lions were incapable of doing against the Green Bay Packers. Very low scoring, but even Rodgers got loose on a 3rd and 17 and converted with his legs. I know the Lions are not necessarily preparing for that, but there's opportunities if you're Justin Fields to take those rushing lanes when that certain play is called, or where there's a pass concept that's not looking right downfield. You can take off on this Lions defense and just put a defense really in a bind. Like when you have to account for the quarterback in the rushing game, it just makes everything you do that much more important as a defender. If you give one leeway to a certain direction, that's all it can take for Justin Fields to really exploit it. And also these rushing attempts that Justin Fields is getting is really limiting the hits he's taking in addition to the sack. So when you look at Pro Football Reference, they kind of account for that in the hits. In this last 3 games that have happened after his mini bye, he's had 4 total hits. In the Washington game alone, he had 8, Will. So the Bears are doing a good job of limiting the hits Justin Fields is taking. So continue to have that be an identity and part of this Bears offense.
And that Lions defense, they do give up the 2nd most rushing yards per game at 148.88. So you can run on them. And like you said, Fields and his ability to run just changes how defense has to approach the Bears. It really just makes it true 11-on-11 football throughout the entirety of the game, which is obviously gives the offense an advantage every single week. And I'm not complaining one bit. My first key here this week is just downfield passing. The Lions allow the 2nd most yards per attempt in the NFL with an 11.7 yards per attempt on average. And Justin Fields, I'm hoping, and I believe that he should be able to put his deep ball on display in this game. You would love to see a deep shot to Chase Claypool kind of work its magic. If you're looking at players on this Lions secondary to go after, Jeff Okudah, he's been a weak link. He gives up a team high 14.3 yards per reception. He's been targeted 11 yards downfield on average, only 3 PBUs and 0 interceptions this year, despite being targeted a team high 38 times. And then I look at the other 2 cornerbacks, Mike Hughes, Will Harris, who's in the slot. They give up 12 yards or more per catch too. They also allow, all 3 of them allow a completion percentage of 68% or higher. So outside cornerbacks too, they allow a passer rating of 116. That's Okudah. Hughes gives up 118. So you can throw on this defense on the perimeter. Again, Chase Claypool it's popping in my mind as someone that can make a difference in this game. Now, over the last 3 weeks, we've seen Justin ascend. We've been talking about that really since we've went live. But over the last 3 weeks, only 2 of his 12 deep balls, that's 20 yards or more downfield, have been completed, and that needs to change. It's a strength of his game, and the Bears do have a favorable matchup this week. You have to give the kid some confidence attacking downfield. The wide receivers need to help here and win in these situations. And just when you look at the intermediate passing game, 10 to 19 yards downfield, this is where Fields has been money, and I think he can continue that here this week. Since the mini bye, he's hit 77% of these passes. That's the 2nd best of all quarterbacks. And if you look at the adjusted percentage, take away the drops, he's at 84.6, which is the best mark in the entire NFL. And one step further, Nick, his passer rating on yards, those passes 10 to 19 yards downfield over the 3 weeks, is the best in the NFL with 157.9. That's almost perfect. 2nd, Jalen Hurts. 3rd, Joe Burrow. Really good company for Fields. So again, for me, downfield passing is something that the Bears should be able to do this week, and I just want to see him do it.
Love those stats, Will. Just to see where Fields ranks, and obviously being highly regarded in that 10 to 19 range, that's awesome. And my second key goes with what you were just saying here, especially in that range with Cole Kmet. Keep that train rolling with what you're seeing from him in terms of the offense and how the Bears are starting to utilize him. When you go back to the Lions and their matchup against the Miami Dolphins, there were some opportunities to throw down the middle of the seams in that game. And I think that's where Cole Kmet and Justin Fields have actually shown, even in the rookie season for Fields, that you can still expand on that area of the game. And especially for a guy like Cole Kmet, who said last week was his most comfortable he's felt in this offense. So if you can still utilize him in those kind of ways, but still he can be a vertical threat downfield in that range that you were talking about, well, that's going to be huge for a guy like Cole Kmet, who scored 3 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks, the most by a tight end. So I think that's going to be big also for this vertical passing game to still elevate, because that's still an area where we want to see more out of Fields, out of the Bears passing attack, out of these receivers and all of his playmakers. But if you can incorporate that as being a consistent threat to opposing defenses, good luck. Good luck trying to defend Justin Fields in the run, to defend his vertical down passing. Like, that's a tough task for any defense, regardless of how good you are or what playmakers you have. So I really like Cole Kmet's ability to impact this game. You know the Bears are going to run the ball, and he's really embraced that role of being a blocking tight end. But that opens up plays like you saw in his first touchdown pass, or his first touchdown reception last week against the Dolphins. That opens up because of the run game. So continue to do that with Cole Kmet, and I think you're going to see some good production out of him.
In the last 2 weeks, only A.J. Brown has more receiving touchdowns than Cole Kmet in the entire NFL. He has 4. Kmet has 3, which is the most of all tight ends. So continuing to go to number 85, I think is a big key. So I'm glad you brought that up. I see a good super chat from Alex Ammerling just saying that, JF1 is going to do some ungodly things to Detroit. And I really hope so. And hopefully as we go throughout the remainder of these keys, we can find more ways for that to happen. And then same thing with Isaac. And I know we're going to get to most of our Q&As at the end, but he wants to know, like, what do we think needs to happen in order for Justin Fields to throw for 300 plus this week? A really good super chat there from Isaac. I think the downfield passing that I talked about, and you mentioned, it's attacking the seams. I think those are keys. And on top of that, the receivers helping out on those deep balls, actually catching them. And then for the Bears, they would have to stick with it enough, the passing, or Justin would have to actually throw the ball instead of running enough to make the 300-yard game. I don't really care if he has a 300-yard game anymore through the air. I'm at that point, like, his style of quarterback play, he doesn't need that to be effective, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think when we look at Justin Fields, especially right now, what he's doing, it's like the total yards that he's able to accumulate with that rushing and the passing. So that's how I think he could be a big factor. But look, the Bears have said it before. If they feel like their best game plan is to run all over a team, they're going to do it. If they feel like it's to pass all over a team, they're also very open to doing that as well. And Will was sharing all the stats about Detroit's defense and what they give up. Maybe that's one of those games, but it seems like with the Lions defense, you can attack them on the ground or through the air.
And again, if you have a question, please throw it in the chat. We will do a Q&A at the end of the episode. Love answering your Bears questions each and every week. But right now, I need to get into my second key of the game on offense for this Bears-Lions matchup. And my second key is just continue the third down excellence that the Bears have been able to do. They have faced the second most third downs over the last 3 weeks, yet they are still the best offense on third down, converting on 55.1% of the time. And the other teams, 2, 3, and 4, have faced like the least. It's really incredible what the Bears have been able to do on third down. And that's just otherworldly, like, effective. Like, the biggest hat tip to see Justin Fields and the rest of the offense for executing on those money downs. It's just an incredible accomplishment. It really is. And they just need to continue that here this week. The Lions, they have the worst third down defense in the league. They allow conversions on 51% of those tries, by far the most favorable matchup that the Bears have had in quite a while this season. And ideally, obviously, and I'll say it, the Bears should find ways to avoid third down at a better rate. Like, we have seen a lot of third downs, and they should find a way to do a better job on first and second down to avoid being in these situations. But still, like, they're coming in clutch on third down. And if that continues here this week, the Bears will be in really good shape. And that's just a good way to move the chains, keep the positive momentum rolling, and put points up on the football. And really, for me, Nick, I just don't want the Bears to allow the worst unit in the league in terms of getting offenses off the field to be the one to find a way to get the Bears, like, in third down trouble, like how we saw earlier in this year when they weren't able to execute on third down and they're just punting, each and every drive. And this is a lot on Justin Fields rushing, him throwing, any other wrinkles that they want to throw our way. I just want them to keep it up. And this is just a matchup that I think it just would be unacceptable if the third down conversions end up just going away here against the Lions.
Completely agree there, Will. Like that's a matchup, that's a stat where you're looking as an opposing offense. Like, we need to capitalize on this. There's no way that Detroit and what they can maybe do to schematically try to hide that, where they come into Soldier Field and look like a good third down defense. They need to capitalize that. The Bears do in order to put up some points. But just given how the offense has been playing, I feel pretty confident that they'll continue the streak that they're on right now.
You know my saying, third down should not be a death sentence. And Nick, can I say it isn't anymore? At least over the last 3 weeks. I mean, obviously it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's so different. The Bears have been like the worst team on third down, whether it's earlier in this season or going back the last 2 years under Matt Nagy. It's been just atrocious on third down. And it's just, I still think, I don't know, just like my mind's blown to watch an offense be able to just sustain drives by executing and converting on multiple third downs.
It's different, Will. It's different. Like I was saying at the top of the show, this is a new territory for Bears fans and for a Bears offense. So it's okay to feel a little weird about it, but if this consistently is what the offense looks like, then we're just gonna get used to it. I think we'll all be all right with that.
Absolutely, not a doubt in my mind. I want to get quickly to my final key on offense, and this is another reason or another way the Bears can put up points. It's just ball security, especially in the red zone. Rookie Kirby Joseph of Detroit, he won the NFC Defensive Player of the Week after a 2-interception performance last week against Green Bay. 3 total interceptions for that defense, multiple coming in the red zone, and they did not allow the Packers to reach the end zone once, despite going into the red zone 4 different times. And obviously, it's no surprise that the Lions, they've won the turnover battle in both of their 2 victories here this season against Washington, against Green Bay. And the Bears have been very solid in ball security since that mini bye, only 2 turnovers in the last 3 weeks. They average nearly 2 per game in weeks 1 through 6, so they've really cut that down. And you know that the Lions defense, their confidence is sky high and they're feeling really good after that 3 turnover day against Aaron Rodgers. They're going to be looking for the ball. They're going to be looking for these takeaways. So for the Bears, they just need to be aware of that fact, protect the ball. Don't give this Lions offense any extra possession, short fields to work with, and just don't throw away points like Aaron Rodgers and turn that ball over in the red zone.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like Kirby Joseph made some really good plays in that game, and I remember doing the draft process. Like, that was a guy that I watched film on, and out of Illinois. So he's a playmaker. Justin Fields, that Bears offense needs to know where he's at.
All right, we'll switch sides of the ball to the Bears defense, and let's figure out what they need to do to succeed against this Detroit offense. Nick, what's your first key this week?
Yeah, I think the big thing with the Bears defense, they need to key on DeAndre Swift. And he's been banged up, a little bit this season, but still productive and dangerous back. And him out of the backfield, Will, running that Texas angle route where, he's faking like he's running a shoot to the flat, then plants his foot and cuts 45 degrees in the middle of the field. Man on man on a linebacker, let's say it's Jack Sanborn, Nicholas Morrow, whoever it may be. That's going to be tough to cover. He had a reception over the middle of the field against the Green Bay Packers defense, brought it to the 1-yard line. The Detroit Lions end up scoring, but I could definitely see the Detroit Lions utilizing that type of route concept against these Bears linebackers. Because now you don't have a Roquan Smith. You have young guys who are still trying to prove themselves in this league. And it's just a tough route concept to defend against because you don't know exactly when it's going to come. So that's going to be big, but obviously he's productive as a running back. I do have him on my fantasy team, so I know he puts up yards and can put some touchdowns on the board. But that route specifically, I'm going to tell you guys right now, it's going to happen at some point in the game. Let's just see if the Bears can mitigate it to not being a touchdown when they are in the red zone. But that route will be coming, and it's going to probably be a completion for the Detroit Lions offense. Let's see if they can mitigate the damage, though.
I was going to say that's one of my favorite routes to run in Madden, but I don't want to give you any tips for the next time that you and I are playing Madden together. So you did not hear that from me, Nick. My first key on defense is just contain St. Brown. Obviously, the Bears secondary, Nick, for lack of a better term, they were torched last week. We saw the separation from those Dolphins wide receivers up in the press box, and it was just all game long. But luckily for the Bears, they don't have to go up against the same level of amount of elite talent at wide receiver here this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown leads the team with 59 targets. That's 17 more than the next wide receiver, Josh Reynolds, who isn't looking like he may play. He didn't practice yesterday with a back injury. TJ Hawkinson, Hawkeye, I was waiting for you to say it, no longer on the team. He's in Minnesota. DJ Shark, he's on IR. So other than St. Brown, you're looking at Khalif Raymond, a 5'8" wide receiver who has 20 catches this season, and Tom Kennedy, who has 6 catches this year. Needless to say, it's not Tyreek Hill, and it's not Jalen Waddle again. So for the Bears, you need just to find a way to shut down St. Brown and force Goff to beat you with some of the other inferior talent at wide receiver. Now, Raymond, he will be second up. He has 11 catches over the last 3 weeks for 168 yards. Solid, but not spectacular. And then Goff's passer rating when he's looking at Tom Kennedy, 37.5 over the last 2 games. So he doesn't want to throw his way, but make him do that. Force him to throw that direction. So for me, if the Bears can contain really their only true weapon at wide receiver, it just makes the entire job easier for the other guys on this defense, and really it will help the Bears succeed throughout the entirety of this game.
Yeah, I really like Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got Equanimous St. Brown, Amon-Ra, obviously the brothers playing in this game. So that'll be just cool to see how they kind of look at that matchup. My second key on defense, and I think it was the same one as last week, but Eberflus talked about in his press conference a couple days ago, is you have to get creative with pressure. Well, this Bears defense can't get to opposing quarterbacks. It's just not happening. It definitely didn't happen in the loss against the Miami Dolphins. And here's what Eberflus said when asked about the issues with the third down defense. But we got to do a good job and have creative ways to create pressure. Winning on third down a lot of times is creating pressure on third down to get the quarterback uncomfortable. Well, Matt Eberflus, Alan Williams, you need to find a way to do that. You need to find a way to just bring some additional guys. And now you don't have to face against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle that speed on the outside. And that's why Eberflus said we just didn't want to bring extra guys because it allows throwing lanes to be created once you do bring an extra defender. And as you were just saying, well, the Detroit Lions don't have that level of receivers outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown that can really stretch a defense vertically and hurt you as much as the Dolphins did. So this is a perfect opportunity for the Bears defense to get creative. When was the last time we saw a Kyler Gordon nickel blitz? Honestly, it's evading me right now. So maybe that's a way he can do it. Jaquan Brisker has shown he can be an effective guy when he gets near the line of scrimmage. So let's see if the Bears can utilize some of these young DBs to impact the game from a pressure standpoint, and then maybe you can start creating pressure. It's not organically with your front four like Eberflus and Alan Williams want, but at least it's pressure because we have not seen that at any point over the last, 3 games.
Mm-hmm. I saw a super chat from Dylan just saying that he gets excited when the Bears offense is on third down now, which he mentions it's insane. It's true. You don't have to worry about it. And it's just a very uncharted territory watching the Bears, and it's nothing to complain about whatsoever. You mentioned Jaquan Brisker. He does lead the team with 3 sacks. So you finding a way to allow him to be a pass rusher, blitzing him, I think would be a good wrinkle if the Bears want to bring it here this week. And your key and my second key, kind of a line here. My second key is bring the heat. So you talked about what the Bears need to do. And I want to explain a little bit more into why, because Jared Goff, it's a simple line. He just crumbles under pressure. We faced him so many times over the years. We know this. It's a fact. He hits 70% of his throws and has 11 touchdowns and a pass rating of 104 when he's kept clean this year. But when he gets pressured, that completion percentage drops to 47.4. He has 4 interceptions and a pass rating of 60. Now, that's on a whole year. And as I've mentioned, he doesn't have the same weapons that he had, earlier in the season. So let's look at the last 3 weeks under pressure after his weapons went away due to injury or trade. His pass rating drops down to 24 when he's under pressure. So it's a really big key here this week for the Bears. Left tackle Taylor Decker, he's given up the most pressures over the last month on the team. Center Frank Ragnow, right guard Evan Brown, they're up there too. And we know the Bears' defensive front, that defensive line, they've just been abysmal at getting after quarterbacks. But this would be a great week to kind of rekindle that, find a way to do it, as we know that what kind of quarterback Goff is under these situations. So can Justin Jones win that matchup in the interior? Will Travis Gibson, Al-Quadin Muhammad, Rob figure out their stuff along the edges? I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence, which is why I think your key, Nick, of just being creative and finding ways to get pressure is very important because we'll need it. And it's a great way to just put a brick wall in front of this Lions offense to get them off the field.
Absolutely. Well, and like how we usually do with our matchups, they kind of build off each other. My third one is make the Lions lion. And what I mean by that, at some point in this game, the Lions are going to go back to that team that makes those inexcusable mistakes. Jared Goff in that game against the Packers could have easily been intercepted 3 times in that game. A lot of it was due to that pressure you were talking about, Will. So when he is under that pressure, he's going to give the defense a catchable ball. The Bears just need to capitalize on it. And then at some point, Taylor Decker, someone you just mentioned, is going to have a holding penalty or a false start. The young tight ends in place of why am I blanking on the tight end? My guy, TJ Hawkinson. Sorry, looking at their new tight end, Tom Kennedy. Young guy, he was asked to do some plays where he's jet motioning and he has to block the DN, completely whiffs, has a false start. So they're putting a lot of young guys in spots right now, and now you got to see as a defense force their hand in making some of these mistakes, these penalties, these off-platform throws that Jared Goff isn't capable of making. So that's what the Bears need to do. And they showed some mental toughness themselves in that game against the Green Bay Packers, because a week before that against the Miami Dolphins, they imploded on each other. And then against the Packers, they were able to just kind of play the waiting game, the long game, and end up getting a victory over Green Bay. So I give them credit for that. But at some point in this Bears-Lions matchup on Sunday, you're going to see the Lions have a series, a drive where it's like, oh, yeah, that's the Detroit Lions we all have come to know over the years. So you got to be ready for that. And as a defense, you can force their hand in making a lot of those mistakes that we've seen all season from them.
Why you always lying? But no, we
Exactly.
know. We know, and you're right. So you said Tom Kennedy was playing a little tight end?
Yeah, yep, Tom Kennedy, 85. Oh, that's a wide receiver. Sorry. That's a wide receiver. Looking at the wrong guy. But yes. He was asked to do like some motion and block in the end there. So yes, wide receiver.
He's only like
Tom
5'10",
Kennedy.
$190. So I was like, wow,
Yes, yeah.
like that is an undersized tight end if I've ever seen one in my life. So I just had to double check that you saw that. All right. My final key here this week on defense is red zone run defense. Very specific here this week. So we've mentioned the lack of weapons to work with in the passing game for Detroit. And you better believe that the Lions are going to try to run the ball in the Bears defense. And why not? You know, it's not a great run defense. We know it. And despite playing from behind a lot this year, the Lions still run the ball the 11th most in the NFL, and they have the 7th best yards per attempt at 5, which is right in line with what the Bears give up on average at 4.9 this year, which is the 26th ranked run defense. And where things can get a little extra dangerous, as my key says, is inside the red zone. Jamal Williams has the 2nd most rushing attempts inside the 20 in the league. He also has the 2nd most rushing touchdowns inside the red zone this year, 6, only trailing Derrick Henry 7. And the Bears' red zone defense, 5th worst on the year, allowing teams to score on about 2/3 of the time inside the 20. And unfortunately, the Bears have given up the most rushing touchdowns in the entire NFL with 15. So it does feel like a mismatch here. So if the Lions are inside the 20, the Bears need as I said about a month ago, grow a friggin' backbone and stop teams on the ground, because the Lions have been good in that area. The Bears want to keep them off the scoreboard. Not allowing them to run once you're in that constricted area of the field, I think would be really key in this one. I think this is a very tough matchup.
It is, Will. And, you know, the defense at some point needs to step up. I just don't know when that's going to happen. I think it was yesterday's podcast where we were kind of talking about that, and just, with Matt Eberflus being such a defensive guy, should the defense really look this bad? And, that's the whole kind of dilemma that the Bears are really working with right now in terms of the defense and what they're giving up so far.
All right, so we'll quickly recap my 3 keys on offense: downfield passing, continue the 3rd down excellence, and ball security in the red zone on offense. And then on defense, contain St. Brown, bring the heat, allow Jared Goff to crumble, and then just grow a backbone and have some good red zone run defense. Nick, what are yours?
Yeah, real quickly on offense, let Fields loose. Those design runs are doing some really good things for not only him as a rusher, but also the passing game as well. And then Cole Kmet, you got to keep that train rolling with Cole Kmet. As Joey makes this amazing graphic right here. Use him in a variety of different ways. It was very productive last week against the Dolphins. keep that going. And then defensively, the linebackers versus DeAndre Swift, that's going to be huge in this matchup, how they're able to kind of contain him, especially in the passing game. You got to get creative with pressure because the Bears cannot generate any organically, which is 4, and then make the Lions be, well, the Lions. And at some point, they're going to make mistakes. And if you can force that hand on the defense, that's only going to allow good things to possibly happen with maybe creating turnovers or just getting off the football field.
Yeah, real good stuff this week. Nick, let's get into our weekly bold predictions brought to you by Greenridge Farm. I'll go ahead and get my bold prediction. Actually, before I do that, Nick, pat yourself on the back because we both got our bold predictions right last week.
We both did, and I cut you off on the video that I posted. Again, I did not watch yours, even though I should have. But I'm like, wait, I said 3 passing touchdowns. I know I said that, and then I forgot that you one-upped me and said the 4.
Yep, the 4 total touchdowns with 1 on the ground. So we both got the Justin Fields line correct with our bold prediction. So let's keep that positive momentum for us going too in these bold predictions. So mine this week, and let's hope it hits. Chase Claypool goes for 80+ yards, catches a touchdown, runs for a touchdown.
Whoa, okay, there we go. Wow, we are stepping it up a notch here in the bold predictions. I love it, Will. Let's see. And this is another week where he's acclimated, and he already did a bunch of different stuff in week 1, and he was there for, 4 days. So let's see what Claypool can do. My bold prediction for this week's game is that, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you have Equanimeous St. Brown. The brothers playing in this matchup. I think both of those guys get touchdowns in this game. And Equanimeous, there was actually a clip of him and his brother kind of talking smack talk earlier this week about this matchup. And Equanimeous said that 4th down drop that he had at the end of the game, that stuck with him. He couldn't sleep with it. And he said that's never going to happen again. I think he has something to prove this week. And, when you have your younger brother there and you don't want to get outperformed by your younger brother, like that's just not what you want to have happen. You want to have success, but in this one, I have both the St. Brown brothers getting touchdown receptions.
I like it. Yeah, I see from Drew saying that mine's very bold. Daniel mentioned that mine's crazy, like when I predicted 11 wins for this Bears team, and I'm getting like sheepish and shy. Not really, but you know what they say, Nick, go bold or go home. But before we get into some of our next stuff, I want to hear more about Greenridge Farm and these meat sticks and everything else that they bring to the table that is just delicious food.
Of course. So Greenridge Farm is a Chicago local meat and cheese company that offers a better all-natural option. Greenridge Farms are the makers of all-natural deli meat, sausages, and of course, the meat sticks, which are perfect for tailgating, happy hour, and school lunches. Also have 16 grams of protein per stick, perfect for a post-workout snack. And you can find them at your local Costco, Sam's Club, local Chicagoland grocery store, wherever you're looking to find those Greenridge Farm products. Most likely they're going to have them. And right now, when you order any 3 meat products at greenridgefarm.com and include a pack of meat sticks in your cart, those meat sticks will be free simply by using code CHGO at checkout.
Good stuff there, Nick. I want to let everyone know about our ticketing partner, Game Time, because Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. Ever dreamed of sitting in a seat that you never thought you could? The 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, floor seats at a concert. It is all possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats that you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on the Chicago Bears. Heck, this Bears-Lions game at Soldier Field. Go to Game Time, score yourself a deal, and then also come to our tailgate, and it'll be a really awesome Sunday all the way around. In Game Time, they were created by the fans, for the fans, and as you know me, that's something that I really resonate with, and they also guarantee the lowest price. So if you love CHGO, then you're going to love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description here on YouTube and your podcast player. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. All right, this is the CHGO Bears Podcast. This is our weekly game preview episode. Will DeWitt, co-host Nicholas Moreano, and we are giving you everything that you need to know before the Bears take on the Lions this Sunday. It's time to get into our weekly X Factors. And Nick, you're up. What is the X factor for you this week?
The X factor is something that you touched on, Will, and I'm pretty sure I touched on as well, but it's just really the passing game execution in this game. And what I mean by that, look at last week. And obviously Justin Fields had a historic day on the ground, but there was a third down play where N'Keal Harry and Justin Fields weren't on the same page. N'Keal Harry adjusted his route based off of the defensive coverage when he wasn't supposed to. There was a play where Darnell Mooney's open, or he has some separation in the right corner of the end zone, but the pass is not in the best spot. Equanimeous St. Brown had a drop pass on fourth down. There was a bad ball from and there was a bad ball from Fields on a third down play. So if the Bears passing game can just execute in all facets, whether it's the placement of the ball from Fields, the route depth by a certain receiver, whatever it may be, that can really help be the X factor in this one, because Justin Fields is going to get his on the ground. Now, if he can also be just a proficient passer with the receivers being on the same page, now, like I said, it's tough to defend every area of the football field because Fields can get there, can exploit each area. So that's going to be the X factor in this one, just a passing game execution.
Now, you talked about mine too much in your X factor, but it is Fields' legs. It's just an X factor. It literally, I think it fits the definition to a T. Like, how can this not be an X factor each and every week? But when I look at, Justin Fields and the fact that he's the 11th highest rusher in the entire NFL with 602 yards, he's gained the second most rushing first downs in the entire league at 42, which is 2 more than Derrick Henry. He also has the second most yards per attempt in the league at 6.6. It's a factor. It's an X factor. And the Lions, they gave up 90 yards to Jalen Hurts, 23 yards to Carson Wentz, 49 yards to Geno Smith, 20 yards to Tua, and as you mentioned, 40 yards to Aaron Rodgers. And obviously, when you look at that list, Jalen Hurts is the only, I'm going to say, close enough comparison. And again, they gave up 90 yards to him. So Fields' legs is a big reason for this team's success, especially on third down. So for me, when I look at Justin, this offense and his ability to move and not just rush the ball, but evade the pressure like he's been able to and buy extra time. And we talked about those matchups in the secondary. If you can buy those receivers an extra second or two to win on these routes, then I think that helps your X factor of that passing attack too. So for me, it's just Fields' legs all the way around.
Yeah, it's definitely a factor, Will, and teams know that now. Like, they know Justin Fields is going to run the ball, but it's one thing to know it and put a game plan, then it's the other thing to actually execute, trying to stop it, and the teams haven't figured that out yet.
Don't even say yet. It's just an undefendable asset that Justin Fields brings to the table. Obviously, that may be a little hyperbole, but that's besides the point. It's time to find out who has the edge. Again, if you have a Bears question that you want Nick and I to answer, throw it in the chat. We will dedicate some time at the end of this episode to answer your Bears questions. Love those each and every week. Can't wait to see those hop in the chat as we go through who has the edge. And I'm up first. I have the Bears passing attack versus that Lions pass defense, and I'm giving this one to the Bears. The Lions, they give up the 4th most passing yards per game. They give up the 9th best completion percentage, the 4th highest passer rating allowed, and the 6th most passing touchdowns per game. And I mentioned yet again those favorable matchups at corner that the Bears should be able to exploit too. And Fields' ability to evade pressure, buy time, move in the pocket, that's going to come into play. I've already mentioned how that's going to help the receivers beat some of that coverage. We've mentioned Chase Claypool having a larger role with an extra week of practice and learning this offense. And Justin Fields is coming off back-to-back games of a passer rating over 100 for the very first time in his career. So let's go for a 3rd straight. So for me, I'm giving this edge over to the Bears, hands down.
Well,
all right, you're up. Bears rushing attack versus that Lions run defense. Do the Lions run defense have anything on the league's best rushing attack, Nick?
No, and I'm going to keep this simple. I know I did a lot of stats heavy last week. It's not. All I got to say is the Bears, they're the number 1 rushing team. You do have to watch out, though, when I was watching the Lions and what they did against the Packers. Derek Barnes, their linebacker, number 55, made a lot of plays in that game against the Packers, so you got to watch out for him. And then 93 kept popping up. Josh Pascal as being something that was containing his lanes and being just effective as a run stopper. But regardless, it's the Bears rushing attack with Fields. Good luck to any team that's trying to take this away from the Bears. Teams haven't figured that out yet, and the Bears are very committed to running the football. That's who they are. That's their identity. So taking the Bears in this one, Will.
All right, switching over to the defense. I have the Lions rushing attack versus that Bears run defense. And, well, I'm going to give an edge here to the Lions. And don't let the stats fool you last week. The Bears run defense, it's not fixed. The Dolphins only ran it with their backs 18 times. Why? Well, they didn't have to run it because they were able to just move down the field with ease, throwing that ball. Nick, like, how quickly were they moving down the field? Like, you blink and they're from like one side to the other. And there's no reason you need to run the football when you're able to just pass as effectively and as seamlessly as the Dolphins were able to do against this Bears defense. And the Lions rushing attack has been pretty consistent and decent this year. Their ability to punch it in the ground, the red zone, I believe that is, quote, lethal. And for the Bears, it's just been an Achilles heel, giving up the most rushing touchdowns in the league. So it's a really bad combo here for our team. So I just don't see any way you can give the Bears the edge here. So I'm kind of back where we were a month ago with this run defense, Nick.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, Will. And to go over to my matchup here, the Lions passing attack versus the Bears pass defense. And we talked about Jared Goff. He can be someone, if you apply pressure, he can be off his mark. You just got to get pressure, though, Will. And the Bears haven't shown they can do that. So I'm going to give this one to the Lions. And like I said, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy that I like a lot. When you add DeAndre Swift in the passing game as well, I think he can do some good things. Unless somehow the Bears can generate pressure and get Goff uncomfortable, then that changes things. But the Bears haven't shown that. They haven't shown they can win these one-on-one matchups. And this does feel like a game, though, Will, where the Bears somehow find a way. Right? Like, oh, here's a pass rush. Here's Jared Goff under duress. It does feel like that, but I'm still going to give it to the Lions in this area, the Lions passing attack over the Bears pass defense. Obviously, the secondary is a strength now, this Bears defense, but still, you need to have some kind of pressure to help those guys out. And they got torched last week against the Miami Dolphins, but still going to give it to the Lions here.
Wow. So it's offense versus offense for the second straight week, at least according to who has the edge.
Yep, that's exactly how it should play out on Sunday, Will.
Modern football. I don't even know what to say. It's a thing.
Weird.
It's weird. It really, and it's just weird. Like, even historically, when you look at the Bears, like when they find an offense, for some reason the defense goes away. Like the last time the Bears were able to score like they have over the last 3 weeks, really it was like 2013, Mark Trestman's first year, because the Bears were the second most prolific offense that year in terms of scoring. And that was only behind Manning and the Broncos. I remember that very specifically because it blew my mind that the Bears were like the top scoring offense in the entire NFC. And that's the year that the defense fell apart for the Bears. And it's those two haven't aligned. But the good news is the Bears offense, they're finding their way. Justin's very young. We should continue this and only get better. And the defense can be rebuilt. And I do think it all begins up front, but I'm getting way ahead of myself here. But just some thoughts that came to my mind. But real quick, I want to let everyone know about a partner of ours that I'm just really excited to have on board, and that is Shady Rays, because they are my favorite sunglasses provider in the entire world, because they never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, and they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall, because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. They are premium polarized shades. They feature world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone in every single lifestyle. And the best part about Shady Rays is that they just have the most insane protection program and all of eyewear, which is lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your shades on day one, they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Months later, same exact deal, no questions asked. You drop it off a lake, off a cliff, anything, they will replace your glasses. I've done that personally, and it's a great program, and they're just so easy to work with. And Shady Rays customers seem to agree, with over 200,000 5-stars reviews. And again, they help you, but also they do a lot of good in the world, because they provide 10 meals to fight hunger in America with every order placed, and they have donated over 20 million meals to date. So you can do some good for your eyeballs, your look, and then also do some good in the world by getting some free meals out there in America. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is running their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. SHGORays.com. Buy one, get one free. You can get 2 pairs for as low as $54. And again, that comes with that awesome Insane Protection program. Redeem only at ShadyRays.com, where you can find all of their newest and best shades.
Perfect. Well, now I just need to tell everybody about, DraftKings. And just listen to this scenario. Cairo Santos is lining up for an onside kick. The chances of regaining possession are slim. The stakes are high, and the tension is higher. Your pulse racing. He kicks, and you watch the ball as it lands. Make every play feel this exciting with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and their unbeatable offers. Right now, new customers can make any $5 NFL bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. And check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. I wish I could tell you who to put the money line on for tonight's Thursday night game, Will, but with the Falcons and Carolina Panthers, I'm just going to key this. I'm just going to step out of this one. You guys make the decision if you do decide to make a money line bet. So, but first, what you need to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code CHGO to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Just place a $5 bet on any football game only at DraftKings Sportsbook using the code CHGO.
Nick, I feel like an idiot, and this hit me last week, and I didn't say anything, but I'm going to say it this week. So when we first had that ad read, and it says like your kicker, and then you say Cairo Santos, I kept saying your kicker. And when you say Cairo Santos, I'm like, oh, duh. Like everyone listening, like that is their kicker. And it's just like, wow, like your kicker. I was just being the generic guy, but good on you for picking up some context clues there that I apparently just washed over.
Hey, it happens. I had it in the ad read, and then wait, let me put Cairo Santos because it's your kicker.
Exactly. It makes a lot of sense. So this week too, we're going to do some plays of the week here for DraftKings, and I want to share mine here first. So my play of the week is a same game parlay, just 2 legs, and I think these are just win-wins. So I have Justin Fields to go over 64.5 yards rushing, duh, and then throw for 1 or more touchdowns. Duh. And those would get you the odds at plus 155. I think that's a home run hit if you ask me. Do you have a play this week, Nick?
Yeah, so we've been talking about this high scoring affair. I think what you could bank on is over the 48 and a half points, which is at minus 115. I know that sounds like a lot for Bears Lions, but this is a completely different Bears team, Lions team that we're used to seeing. But also, we've been talking about Cole Kmet, right? In the Cole Kmet hype train right now. Over 29 and a half receiving yards for Kmet is at plus 120. I like that as well. We talked about running, utilizing the seam routes and things like that. There was a prop bet that was like plus 5 on receiving yards. Like he got that on the second play of the game. He got a 7-yard reception. So I remember taking that. But those are two plays right there where if you're looking to, make that into a parlay or a single bet, I like both of those things happening for this Bears-Lions matchup on Sunday.
I like that a lot. I really do. I saw a comment a few minutes ago about should they start Chase Claypool in fantasy, and I don't know their team because bye weeks and things of that nature. I wouldn't say start them if you have other quality starters yet. Let them earn it and show you before we throw them in that starting lineup. I think I'm starting them in one league because of almost necessity, but I don't think it's a preferred thing yet. I know my bold prediction was out there, but again, that's a bold prediction that we're trying to put out there here this week. But maybe he'll hit it. Maybe he'll boom this week on fantasy. But let's get into some over-unders from DraftKings. I pulled up the app, looking at them right now for this Bears-Lions matchup. Nick, passing touchdowns for Justin Fields. The line is over one. It's 1.5. Are you going to take the over-under on the 1.5 for Justin? Does he get 2 this week?
Ooh, man. He just had his 3 touchdown game last week. I'll take the over on that. A little hesitant, but because of how effective they are rushing the ball, but I'll go over 1.5.
I'm over 1.5 too. Jared Goff, his line is also 1.5. I'm hitting the under, which goes back to my key on defense about the red zone run defense. I feel like the Lions, if they get into the red zone, will try to put it on the ground against this Bears run defense that just hasn't been able to stop really anybody inside the 20. What about you? Over under 1.5 for Goff?
I'm going over Goff, especially if that pass rush isn't there.
Passing yards for Justin Fields, Nick, your favorite line in the whole wide world is at 180 this week. What are you doing?
No, it's going under, guys. Like that hurt me last week. I could have won $2,000, and I'm glad Justin Fields had the game that he did. I won't bet. It skewed my vision of how I was watching the game too. But I'm going under 180 for the passing yards for Justin Fields.
I'm going to say over. Again, this Lions defense, you can pass on them. It'll just be interesting to see how much the Bears want to keep it on the ground with Justin, with these running backs versus put it through the air. But if they do, you can pass on this Lions defense. And again, that's what makes it so difficult for Justin, because you don't know how much of his total yards are going to come on the ground. But as I mentioned earlier, I don't really care about quote passing yards being at a high number anymore, because his total yards have been up there and he's just been really effective and efficient with his throwing attempts. Again, 3 touchdowns last week through the air for Justin. So for me, I'll still say over because I'm optimistic. What about interceptions for Jared Goff? It's at 0.5. The Bears going to get one or more?
I think the Bears can get one. Now, if the pressure is there, that number easily you can get over that interception mark. So I'll go over regardless, because Jared Goff is going to give you some opportunities as a defense.
Okay, I really like this rushing prop. Bear with me. Jared Goff, his line is at 3.5 yards rushing. Does he get over or under 3.5? Like, I feel like he could easily go over that. Just one evading of the non-pressure that the Bears are going to provide, and then he just skedaddles out of bounds on the sideline.
3 point. Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe they even gave him one.
I kind of want to just try that just to see what the hell happens. I'll go over. Like, come on, it's 3.5 yards. Yeah, I think he can get over that at some point in the game.
What about David Montgomery at 57.5? It's interesting because you just don't know his utilization in the offense.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't touch anything with like Montgomery or Herbert. Like it's hard to gauge at this point, but I'd say under.
All right, I'm on Ross St. Brown, 67.5. Nick, what do you got?
Going over 67.5. He's their main target. He's their best weapon, and that brother rivalry. I think he's going to get riled up for this game and make some big plays happen.
All right, and put your money on this one. Aiden Hutchinson over under 0.75 sacks.
0.75 sacks. Oh, okay. Yeah, I go over. That's true. That's true. I go over. He's a guy. He lines up on both sides well, so he can give Braxton Jones some damage there, and then he can go over to Riley Reef and say he wants some too. But yeah, I go over.
All right, and then one other one. I'm just going to do total team touchdowns for the Bears, and I won't give away your score. It's the line's at 2.5. Will the Bears score more than 2.5 touchdowns?
They will score more than 2.5 touchdowns. Taking the over.
All right. That was a fun over-under segment. Again, all in the DraftKings app. So if you want to play along with Nick and I on those over-unders, definitely download the app. Use that code CHGO and have yourself a time. Let's get into this week's MVBs. And I'll begin because, well, people have already given me a little crap in the chat about my bold prediction, and I'm just going to double down and give it to Chase Claypool being the MVB here this week. And Nick, you wrote a great article about Chase making his presence felt last week. And even it should have been more if that defensive pass interference call was actually called late in the game. But now it's time for Chase Claypool to prove that he's worth more than just drawing flags. It's time to go out there and make some big plays. He had 6 targets in his first game. He's going to have his chances, and the matchups this week are much more favorable. And I can see him catching a deep pass or two from Fields, doing some damage on the screen. And one of the plays that he did last week, Nick, that you and I were talking about in Up in the Box is, he caught like just a quick little hitch, and then was able just to kind of bully the corner to run for a first down. And just those are things that the Bears haven't had at the receiver position before Claypool's arrival here this season. And those are just ways that he can continue to just be a factor and help out Justin Fields. And I think also, additionally, his ability to open things up for Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet and others should not go unnoticed in this offense. So for me, I think Claypool's going to prove that he's valuable, and against this Lions defense, prove that he can be the most valuable Bear on offense. And I just want to put the caveat, and maybe you're going to do the same, but Justin Fields is the obvious MVB choice almost each and every week right now. So I'm just trying to come up with like somebody else that is not Justin Fields, because I don't want to give away just all the obvious. I like to look a little bit deeper for everyone listening.
Absolutely. Well, like I was going to bring that up if you didn't just now, but yeah, going outside the box, outside of Justin Fields, who would be your MVP? I'm going with another wide receiver. Going with Darnell Mooney for this
Ooh.
matchup, and you look at his matchup specifically with the nickel corner Will Harris. I like what Mooney is capable of doing because again, now we're utilizing more Chase Claypool. You have him on the outside, maybe EQ, N'Keal Harry. You're going to see more Darnell Mooney in the slot, I think. And you saw what he did against Xavier Howard for that touchdown from Justin Fields. Perfect ball, perfect route. So I like Darnell Mooney to potentially pop off this game. And we said all the stats about what Detroit's defense gives up in the passing game. We know that out of all the receivers here, that's the one Fields has the most connection with. Let's see it start to play out a little bit more. We saw that, like I said, that touchdown pass, but Darnell Mooney, MVP for this matchup against the Detroit Lions.
Look at us putting faith in the Bears wide receiver room, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we're seeing offensively. I think we need to start to, but also we just need to actually see it happen. So it'd be great if either one of our MVBs bold predictions end up happening.
Best case scenario, there's a debate after the fact, like which one actually had a better game. That would be pretty tremendous.
Be
And
perfect.
I don't think neither of us would complain if the lines were a little bit blurred between the two. So let's see. We given keys. We've shared who has the edge, X factors, place them over under, given our MVB prediction, which means it's time to figure out who in the heck's actually going to win this game. Nick, you going Bears? You going Lions?
So this look, well, it's obviously a divisional matchup, two teams that are underperforming in terms of records, but the Bears need to win this one. Will I know that this is not a season where it's all about the wins and losses for the Bears, but this is a winnable matchup. Last week against the Dolphins, it was tough, and I predicted the Dolphins would win the shootout. I think this is going to be a game where it's another shootout. And the Bears just have, when you look at Jared Goff and Justin Fields, who's the better quarterback in this one? It's Justin Fields. He makes more plays than Jared Goff does. At the end of the day, Bears win it again in a high scoring game. Not as high as last week, but 30-24 is how I have this one shaking out in at Soldier Field. And Will, I'm just going to turn it over to you because you had a very surprised expression on your face when I said that.
Yeah. Well, I have the Bears winning too in very similar fashion. The Lions give up a league high 29.3 points per game. I think the Bears should be able to move the ball up and down the field against them, put up points. The Lions keeping, Green Bay to only 9 last week, I believe is a fluke. I don't think that really scares me. I think it's a testament more of some of the issues going on in Green Bay. I know the Lions had, I think, like a team player meeting before, like that week that kind of inspired that play. I don't know if that's going to sustain and carry from week to week, and they just have a whole different animal to contain in Justin Fields. So for me, I have the Bears winning a high-scoring game, Nick. 31-24 is what I put in my notes.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, that's why I was very surprised where we were at too. And again, it all comes down to the Bears, defense in the red zone. If they can just make enough stops to win the game, Nick, I think that's what it comes down to because they only forced one punt last week. They allowed the Dolphins to reach the red zone on 66% of their drives. And obviously we mentioned this week is an easier task than Tua, Hill, and Waddle than the Dolphins were, but I think this game will be a little bit closer than we would like, and we may give up more points than we would like, but Fields and the offense should be able to score enough to go out there and win this game. It just the defense needs to just provide a stop or two. They really do.
And they did do that at the end of the game against the Dolphins. They figured something out. And so if you could have that carry over, even if it's for a half, because they had it for a quarter in the fourth quarter, then things could, go in the Bears' favor. But they did figure out something in that fourth quarter. Hopefully they can build off of that.
All right. How confident, though, are you that the Bears will win? I'm sitting at a George Hallett 7 personally. What about you?
I'm at a 6. Well, these teams are very similar in how we think it's going to play out, right? Offense and which defense can maybe make some stops. But at the end of the day, though, I think the Bears, again, just are better. They have the better quarterback. That's where it really counts. So that's why it's still closer to obviously the middle there at 5, but the Bears should win this game. Well, they should.
They really, really should. I saw a comment from Jailbreak just saying that my bold prediction isn't horrible because, the Bears should, maybe plan on using Claypool in the running game a bit. Thank you. I feel a little bit better now after my bold prediction. That makes me just breathe a little bit easier. But let's get into some of these questions that we had throughout the show. I see a handful. And again, we have a little bit of time. So if you do have a Bears question and you haven't asked one yet in the chat, throw it in there. Would love to answer it here before we kind of sign off for the day, really for the week, before this Bears game coming up on Sunday. So the first one I see is from Dylan that we want to get. Oh, I already mentioned that one. It was flagged, but it was just one he said that he's excited about the Bears being really good on third down. It's worth throwing up on the screen and just touting one more time because it is a lot of fun watching that the Bears, are a team that can be a difference maker on third down. Really appreciate that super chat, Dylan. It really helps us tremendously. Let's get into AGM Productions question. Chase Claypool now has a full week of practice. Could this be his breakout game against defense? Nick, everyone knows my thoughts. I've given my thoughts on Chase Claypool this week. What about yours?
Yeah, so I think with Chase Claypool, too, he didn't even know about some of the different cadences that Justin Fields had when he was playing in that first game. He was surprised by it. And now after a week's full worth of practice, he's now learned that. So he's just getting a little bit more acclimated to what this playbook is. And it's going to be an ongoing process, but now he has more familiarity of what the Bears want to do with him in the specific plays that they're going to call for him in this game. So is this the week where he has his breakout game? He's only got one game to compare it to so far. So I would say so. I think there's opportunity there with the deep ball. Another week's full of practice of just getting the timing down with that and seeing what Chase Claypool is capable of doing. But yeah, when it comes to compared to last week, it could definitely be a breakout game for Chase.
Good stuff there, Nick. Isaac wants to know, with the lack of high-end talent at linebacker now, with the lack of Roquan, do we think about using Brisker like Arizona uses Isaiah Simmons, more of that hybrid linebacker safety kind of role? I don't think they're going to change Brisker's role. I do love when they throw him down in the box because he is someone that is a really good tackler. He is effective coming off the edge, blitzing, if we mentioned that earlier in the show. But I can understand why Isaac's asking this question because the Bears do need help and the second level of this Bears defense. And Brisker does provide them with, at least, like I said, some versatility there and a little bit extra speed, some range that you're not going to see from Morrow, from Sam Byrne, or Joe Thomas.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't think they wouldn't change too much schematically what they want to do just because maybe they don't have the talent there at linebacker. The Bears did designate Matt Adams to return off IR, so you'll see him more in the mix eventually here for these Bears linebackers. But yeah, Jaquan Brisker near the line of scrimmage, that could still be a factor for the defense, regardless of who's playing linebacker, because he's really good at being physical. That's who Jaquan Brisker is to a T. It's just in him. So I don't think they do the Isaiah Simmons role, but I would expect to see him at the line of scrimmage a little bit more.
For sure. Vomc93 wants to know if Swift and Amon St. Brown are active for the Lions. Everything I see is that they're going to play, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything different. Like I said, I know DeAndre Swift has been dealing with some injuries, but he's played through some of them, so I know he's inactive one of the weeks. But yeah, as of right now, and we'll see the injury reports later today, it seems like they're good to go.
I didn't see St. Brown on yesterday, so I feel like, again, I think we'll see both here on Sunday. Chris wants to know, where does Fields rank among NFC North quarterbacks? Oh, what a great question at this stage, in this juncture. And do you look at the whole season? Do you look at just the last 3 weeks? Okay, he's better than Goff. We can say that.
Yes. That's the one where you can put him over. Now, see, okay, this is where it's going to get, I don't want to be like a homer or anything with, Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers not having an Aaron Rodgers-like season, everybody. He really isn't. Looking at his stats, and, okay, this is just looking at the stats, just regular season, 64.7 completion percentage, 2,091 yards, 14 touchdowns. He was picked off 3 times last week against the Lions, so the 7 interceptions. Who would you say is playing better football right now? Justin Fields or Aaron Rodgers?
Right now, Justin's playing at a higher level. Yeah, exactly.
So it's again, the question, Chris, where do they rank right now? Right now, I put Fields ahead of Rodgers. And then Kirk. And then, man, I need, obviously the Minnesota Vikings have a really good record. And we saw what Kirk Cousins did to the Bears defense in that first half. But he's probably at the top. Yeah, he's at the top, and then you're working your way down how I just said it, but that's how I'd rank it.
That's where I'm at too right now. And I think the good news is for Bears fans, like we know Kirk Cousins. We kind of know where that ceiling is, and we know the potential that Justin has. And there's no reason why Justin can't claim that top spot as the best quarterback in this division and hold it for quite a while, just considering like the current landscape of it, which really, really excites me for our future.
Absolutely. I wonder if also Rodgers. I guess we're also not used to seeing him being in this slump that he is. It's fantastic, but we're just also not used to it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like we get to see our quarterback play at a high level, watch Green Bay's play at a low level. It's things I've never seen almost in my entire lifetime. So I'm not complaining. Our good pal Rob, he has a question about Cole Kmet. Wondering if he can propel himself into tight end one territory for fantasy after the 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks, playing him over Evan Ingram. Would you do it?
Oh man. Like I know obviously it's trending up for Cole Kmet. I need to see if it can. I mean, I think it should continue. There's opportunities for it to continue this week against the Detroit Lions and their defense. I just know that I had Cole Kmet at one point in fantasy, and I no longer have him. I wish I did now. But would you make that move, Will? Like if he was, again, for Evan Ingram, I don't even know how Evan Ingram's doing right now.
I don't care. I'm playing Cole Kmet because he has, I think, the confidence. Justin has the confidence in him. The Bears are finding creative ways to give him the ball. He has to have confidence in himself, the way he's been playing, not just as a pass catcher, but also being that little extra rusher, like the end around, the sneak. And then also he's been good at blocking, which I think just sets up what you're mentioning earlier in the episode. And he has like his best friend from college on the team now. So it's like he's living life and like riding a high. So why not continue the Kmet train?
Yeah, Evan Ingram hasn't done anything. Now that I'm looking at his stats, 1 reception, 8 yards against the Raiders, Broncos. He had a touchdown at 55 yards, 67. Okay, so maybe he's actually accumulated some yards there.
There you go. Sebastian wants to know, do you think we'll win against Green Bay next month? I know we have a long way to go until we get there, but as of right now, I mean, I'm feeling like the Bears are an entirely different team than they were the last time they played the Packers, which really excites me about the potential of beating Green Bay. So I think there's a good chance you can beat the Packers and get that, monkey off your back, perhaps. But at the same time, it is Aaron Rodgers against the Chicago Bears. And even in a struggling Aaron Rodgers, I feel like can somehow pull something out of his rear end against the Bears to just break our hearts yet again.
Yeah, the Packers are vulnerable right now. And obviously, maybe ask me this question, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks ago or right after the Bears played. I'm like, no, it's not going to be that. But I'm feeling better because, well, that matchup lands right on my birthday. And I remember being like, all right, here's another birthday ruined by the Packers. But I'm feeling better about that matchup. I definitely am.
I see you, Brian, mentioning Bears Bros. Appreciate you, Brian. Really do. There was one good question. Ronald was wondering if Weatherford's ever going to get a shot at the will linebacker position. I think if Nicholas Morrow plays like he did last week, there is a chance that this season you could see Weatherford get a shot over there at the will, because Morrow, Nick, for playing the weak side backer, which is very important in this defense, and that's the position where you're supposed to rack up a bunch of tackles. And I know he just moved over there after playing the mic pretty much the whole time since he signed with the Chicago Bears, but he only had 2 total tackles. And if that's going to be the new bar at that position, this Bears defense is really going to struggle. And I do think Weatherford's athleticism could allow him to have more range on special teams. He is like a heat-sinking missile. And I feel like if the Bears want to see what they have in him at some stage of the season, if Morrow plays at the level that I saw against Miami, I think there's a legitimate shot we see him at the will sometime this year.
Yeah, well, I don't know the answer to that question. I just know the last time I had my mustache, I was in the locker room. Sterling came up to me. He's like, hey, nice stash. And then he just went into the showers. I'm like, all right. Sterling Weatherford. It was funny because I was having a conversation with Alex Shapiro from NBC Sports Chicago. He's like, Nick, last time I had my mustache, I just noticed like guys come up and compliment you. And then literally 5 minutes later, going into the locker room, Sterling's like, hey, nice stash. Walks away. I'm like, appreciate you, Sterling. Hope you get to play sometime.
And then I saw someone mentioned like our thoughts on the 1920 football drive episode. Is there a new one that I just have been unaware of this week?
Yes, it's with Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham and them going out and scouting different players. I haven't actually watched it yet, but that just came out. Was it today, yesterday?
5
Not
hours
sure,
ago,
but
yeah.
yep. So that's out. We'll have to definitely tune in and give our thoughts, at a later time. But we'll definitely tune
Thanks
into
for
that.
Yeah, Thursday mornings, it's just crunch time to get 100% ready for this show. So I just turn off all the socials. I put my phone away, get off Twitter. So I appreciate you letting me know about that. One last question, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. Drew TV, is the stash coming back, Nick?
It is. It definitely is. I had to actually grow out the full beard because I did something with DePaul a couple days ago, so I didn't want to do it. Just the mustache. I could have, but I didn't. So the stash will return shortly.
Wonderful. Love to hear it, Nick. Really good stuff here this week. Appreciate all the work that you put into these preview episodes. It really makes the whole thing go. And I just love doing these shows each and every week with you. Makes my time, makes my week, honestly. It's something I look forward to every day. But I think really good stuff. I'm excited about this Bears-Lions game and seeing how the Bears stack up. And if Justin Fields can continue just rising through the ranks and just making a lot of noise here in the league, because I would just love nothing other than that.
Yeah, I don't want this to stop, Will. Like, even though it's different can be good. Change can be good. And, like, seeing the Bears quarterback recognized nationally as him, right? Him, the guy. That's been really cool to see. And I think he has a really good chance of keeping that level of play this Sunday against the Lions.
I appreciate everyone here in the chat for asking their questions throughout, interacting with both us and the other people in the chat. If you haven't yet, please give this video a thumbs up before you leave. It really helps us out. I want to see that number go up as I exit this episode. It just really does mean a lot to me to see that go up. It makes me feel good, like Nick and I are providing the quality information that I believe we are. But that's going to do it for today's episode of the CHGO Bears Podcast. We'll see you for our pregame show Sunday morning right after our tailgate. Come hang out with us on Sunday. Get your tailgate tickets, and let's go root on the Bears as they take on the Lions. But I'll see you then. And, of course, Bear down, Chicago.